sorry, she gets on the Rapid Express train instead of the local. I've had experiences like that in Tokyo.
I bet that was a fun experience.
Yeah, first night in.
Just getting lost.
Nah, not necessarily getting lost, but taking the train too far because the stop I needed to get off at was not being serviced on the express train.
So where did you end up getting off?
So the line I took is a private line that leads from Narita Airport, which is outside of Tokyo. It's in a neighboring prefecture, Chiba.
Okay.
It's about an hour and a half ride by train on this route.
Okay.
Train lines in Japan are a split between publicly owned and private owned.
Okay.
And so this specific train line, and the reason I took it is because the youth hostel I was staying at in that trip was 2 blocks off of the train station for this private line that was called the Keisei line. So it goes from Narita to Ueno. And I needed to get off before Ueno, obviously. But I didn't realize that the train I was on was an express train. And so it skips some of the smaller stops. And one of the stops it skipped was my stop, which was Keisei Koiwa Station. I was like, well, I missed the station. I don't know what's going on. Ended up in Ueno, and at that point, I had no idea how to even pronounce Ueno. Get out. I didn't even know how to operate the ticket gates. That was part of the story of my first trip to Japan. Get out of the platform area, get to a payphone, call up the youth hostel. Talk to them, tell them what happened. They're like, okay, you just got to get on the local train. So I knew that some hostels had curfews, and it was getting late. It was like 7:30. So I asked them, how long until the curfew? And he misunderstood me. He thought I was asking, how long will it take for me to get from Ueno to Keisei Koiwa? He's like, 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, 20 minutes? Well, I'll see how quickly I can get there. Not realizing that this place doesn't have a curfew. Waited on the platform nervously, thinking, I'm not going to make it to check into the hostel. Like nervously waiting on the platform. I think that was the first time I had a CC Lemon as well. CC Lemon is a popular vending machine available soft drink. It's a lightly carbonated lemon beverage.
You know what? I think they have that in Nichijou.
It's quite a popular drink. It's good.
I think I saw that on Nichijou.
Yeah. So while I was on the platform waiting for the train, there was a vending machine there because that's just kind of how platforms are. And I'm like, God, I'm really thirsty. I haven't had anything to drink for a couple of hours since I was on the plane. So the advertising on the vending machine was for CC Lemon, which if I remember correctly, it's by Suntory. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll try that. Dropped my 120, 130 yen and had a very delicious beverage while I waited for the train. Got on the train, got off at the right stop, and then spent an hour lost in a 4-block radius trying to find the hostel until somebody pulled up in a Mercedes asking me if I needed. The dude was taller than me.
Oh my God.
Wearing a suit.
He was Japanese?
Japanese dude. Pulled up in a Mercedes. He was in a suit. I didn't think about this until years later, but I wonder if he was Yakuza. Anyways, he pulls out and asks me in English, do you need any help? And I had been wandering around this little area trying to find the youth hostel because addresses in Japan can be complicated and difficult to find, even for people that are Japanese. It can be very difficult to find a building in a place you're not used to. Many of the streets don't have street names. You drill down to a series of numbers, a block number, a neighborhood number, and the building number. Mm-hmm. And the buildings are not numbered in sequential order physically. In many locations, they're given a number based upon their construction date. So number 17 will be next to number 35, and so on. So it's really hard to find places if you're not familiar with the area.
That sounds abysmal.
It's a thing.
This was before. What? This was in the 90s?
No, there was GPS.
Okay.
Because the gentleman with the Mercedes had GPS in his car. This was
nice.
This was May of 98.
And how old would you have been?
I was 18.
18. Okay.
I was 18. I hadn't even graduated high school yet.
Damn.
I was there in May of my senior year.
Damn.
So I took the guy's help, hopped in the car. He's like, I'm not from the area, so I really don't know, but I have friends who run a clinic that's in the neighborhood. We'll head over there and I'll ask them. Drove for a couple minutes. We were chit-chatting. He was a big fan of classic American rock, like Aerosmith, stuff like that. It was just music I don't listen to at all, but courteous. I'm like, okay. Because here I am. I've been awake for 20 hours, very disheveled, carrying this giant gunny sack full of my clothes.
Yeah.
Chain wallet, whatever. I looked like a skater kid from the 90s. I'm sure I smelled pretty bad too. And the car was right side drive. And I remember when he's like, all right, hop in. And I had to like resist the urge to yell shotgun for some random reason. And then marvel at the fact that I was getting into what for me normally would be the driver's car side of the car. And then I looked and there's a GPS, navigation system in his car. I'm like, oh damn, this is pretty good. So we drive around a little bit, stop in front of the small clinic. And I look out, he's like, just wait here, I'll ask them for help. And like, I gave him the address. He hops out and I'm watching him and he's in the foyer and there's older woman, which I think is probably the doctor's wife who runs the place. And then maybe either a younger, like a daughter or an assistant or whatever. And he's like talking to them and pointing to me and they're like bowing and smiling and I'm waving back. And so he comes back in a couple minutes later. He's like, all right, I know where it is. Comes back. It was a half a block from where he picked me up. A street I had walked down and back and forth for, and I say an hour. I was probably trying to find it for 30, 40 minutes. Just circumnavigating this huge block. And I just couldn't find the place. He takes me back there. And fortunately I forgot his name and he dropped me off. And that was my first introduction to Japanese hospitality. And it was fantastic. Needless to say, I got into my hostel and then
Didn't have a curfew.
did not have a curfew. In fact, I didn't even stay to settle in. I wanted to get some food, and it was probably like 8:30, 8:45 at that point. Hopped back on the train, took it all the way to Ueno, popped out of there, and about 2 blocks out of the exit from the station was a McDonald's. So I got some McDonald's, walked around the corner, and ate McDonald's in Ueno Park on my first night in Tokyo.
Goes to Japan,
And then-
eats McDonald's.
Saw 2 people banging on a bench in Ueno Park.
Hey,